Effective communication in teams. How do you do it? What does it involve? Hi guys, my name is Deepak Shukla. I'm the founder at the Pearl Lemon Group. We are a sales training, marketing, and development company that also offer corporate communication. So if you need any support with your internal as well as external communication with your clients as well as your team, please do reach out to us. And welcome back to day number 11 of 106 days of communications training. But before we get into it, feel free to click the link in the description below to get access to an additional 7 strategies that are not shared in this training. So look, fundamentally, when it comes to communicating effectively within a team, there's let's caveat that. When it comes to communication in a team and making that communication effective, there's a couple of things that I think are important. So one of the big things is understanding the role of everybody. Now, you may hear advice such as it's important to get everyone's opinion, and it is important to get everyone's opinion, but there's a couple of things I think that become important when recognizing how that information is distributed. So if you have a team of 6 people, let's say, and let's round table it. So you've got your 6 people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there you go. You've got your 6 people, okay? So level and layer one is it is important to get opinions from everybody when it comes to new ideas, new initiatives, and just general chatter. Okay, it is. But number two, it's important to understand what role that person or each person plays within, for example, that team. So at some stage or periodically, intermittently, it's important to get everybody's opinion. It is not important, depending upon what's involved, to get everybody's opinion for every decision, because then it makes everyone's decision or every decision painfully slow. So that's just the second thing to consider. The third thing to consider is it depends upon what that team is being tasked to do. So if that team is meant to be rapid and agile, then decisions do need to be made quickly. And depending upon the nature and style of the group, if you've got people that are, for example, incessant talkers, then you need to really understand what is it that we're working on? Is there someone with more experience? Therefore, experience typically and skill does trump a lot of things. Now, there's always an instance where there's new ideas and things of that nature, a new idea, a fresh idea, and those people should be given voice. And that's very, very true. But experience and leadership counts for a lot. It can count for the majority of the decisions that are made. So it's just something to consider. So when you're thinking about effective communication in teams, consider the experience of the team, consider the general skill of the team, and consider the IQ of the team. Okay. So experience is years doing the job or amount, the amount of hours in the job rather than years. Okay. The skill is just people's natural level of skill at that particular piece of work. So, software development is a good example of one, or something that, has a technical component. Having someone within the team that's actually done the work is of course going to be important. And that's just general IQ, I'd call it. So let's do two I's actually. So general IQ is just how smart is that person, okay? And therefore that would imply or implicate how you manage that person in many instances. And then industry knowledge, okay? Experience and industry knowledge can go together, but they can also be separate if, it's a new industry or someone's got a lot of experience in a different industry, or it depends upon the type of experience. But there you have it. Experience, skills, IQ, and industry knowledge are factors with which you should grade these 6 people within your team. And then that should color the way that you consider the communication within the team, because you're going to know who your most talented people are. And then outside of that, we talked about roles. So what is the role of each of the people within the team? If it's a joint collaborative effort, as it will be, then fantastic. But you might have someone who's dedicated around strategy. You might have someone who's dedicated around execution. So depending upon how it works, then the type of communication and the nature of the communication is going to be different. So the marketer in a software startup versus the engineer are going to carry out slightly different roles. So being mindful then of what the communication looks like is going to be important. Now, if we move it further down the rung, the personality type. Now, you can of course run personality tests. There's many out there. Just give it a Google, if I'm being honest, and you'll find a bunch. You could ask everybody to submit a actual personality test, but in the main, it's fairly easy to understand who is the extrovert, who is the introvert, who is the salesperson, who is the ops person, who is, for example, someone who would enjoy sending feedback on email as opposed to in person, and understanding ultimately the different personalities types judged through evidence within the team within the first 48 to 72 hours would give you good indications of how to individually manage each person in the team. And that relates to a lot of the effective communication, the individual management of them. Okay. The individual management of them. So that's something else that becomes important. I want to leave you with some practical insights for effective communication in teams as well. If you notice if you're the leader, okay, or regardless of where you are within the team, do notice if there's people that are not having their voice heard, and either ask them to speak up or go to them directly to get their insights. That's the first thing. The second thing to consider is observe. Observe who speaks more, observe who speaks less, observe who has good ideas, and adjust accordingly. Adjust accordingly. Listen. So not trying to cut in to give your idea, but actually just listening and finding the value in what people say is going to be also important. Now, if it's a client relationship, then clients really look for experts and leaders. Okay. And you need to demonstrate that through the way that you give advice and the manner in which you give the advice. So rather you need to the advice you give and the way that you give your advice. Okay, so experts and leaders. So you can lead a phone call, you can lead the follow-up, you can lead the introductions, you can lead the plan of attack, you can lead the problem solving, and you can listen to complaints, you can listen to ideas, you can listen to general chit chat when it's relevant. And all of these things become super important when you're looking at client relationship management. And certainly if you want to lead between a team, then that will allow you a lot more bandwidth and room to ultimately get respected, get your message heard, and do anything that's necessary. Now, a lot of it will also depend upon, of course, if it's 3 from your side and 1, 2, or 3 from the client side, depending upon who ultimately is paying, that person typically has a control, because it's the client paying you, then they should have more control. At least, you give them the impression of control. And then within that team, they'll have also the same factors, different personality sets and these types of areas. So you need to assess what works best for that team. General rules of thumb: don't interrupt, do get feedback from everybody, do engage in proactive small talk, and be super confident when you come into calls. And between all of that, you should get some super effective communication in teams. But it's important, again, please do in the comments write down your takeaways, right? You should have identified at least 5 things that I've said. So I'm looking for some takeaways that you can take away from this video recording. And finally, please do comment, like, and subscribe if you find this useful and powerful. So there you have it, effective communication in